In this video, I will review Girl, Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. In 2018, this was the second most popular book on Amazon.com. Keep watching to find out why. Hi, I'm Linda, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Better You Books, where I read and review books that help you to become a better version of yourself. In today's review of Girl, Wash Your Face, I'll tell you more about the author, Rachel Hollis, share with you my thoughts and key takeaways, as well as my favourite quote, before ending with who I recommend this book for and giving it my star rating. So keep watching till the end to find out what score I gave it. Girl, Wash Your Face was published in 2018 and it is a #1 New York Times bestseller. I first heard about this book last year. I saw that it had so many positive reviews online, so I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I read it for the first time last year. I picked it up again in January this year to give me a boost of motivation, and then I reread it again so I could do this review for you guys. Girl, Wash Your Face is by far Rachel's most successful book. However, she has written quite a lot of books in different genres. She actually started off by writing chick lit novels, and she's also released a couple of cookbooks. I actually have one of them, and I can wholeheartedly recommend the spinach chicken bake, as I made that the other night and it was delicious. She's also written a follow-up book to Girl, Wash Your Face called Girl, Stop Apologizing. Rachel is from California in the US, and she now lives in Austin, Texas with her husband Dave and her 4 children. Rachel started her career as an event planner, and she set up a lifestyle blog to supplement the business and just to promote it really. But actually the blog became really successful, so she ended up transitioning away from the event planning business into the lifestyle blog. Over time, she's now evolved into becoming an author. She has 2 popular podcasts, and she's also an in-demand motivational speaker and hosts her own conferences, which thousands of women attend every year, and so much more. Rachel is a really passionate entrepreneur, and she is always working on something new. This book is divided into 20 chapters, and each chapter is a lie that Rachel once believed that held her back. The lies include things like, I should be further along by now, I'm not a good mum, and something else will make me happy. At the end of each chapter, Rachel says what worked for her to overcome these lies. Regular viewers of my channel may feel that this format is somewhat familiar, and that's because it was copied in Rachel's husband's book, Get Out of Your Own Way, which I reviewed a few weeks ago. Different people will get different things from this book, especially depending on their stage in life. For example, there are quite a few chapters on being a mother that I'm sure that other mums could get a lot of key insights from, but here are mine. #1, you have the ability to change your life. I believe this is actually the central tenet of the book, and the first time I read this, I actually cried on the very first page when I read this. You and only you are ultimately responsible for who you become and how happy you are. At the end of the book, Rachel adds, you have the ability to change your life. You've always had the power. You just have to stop waiting for someone else to do it for you. And this really resonated with me, but this idea does come across a lot of criticism, which I will address later in this review. But personally, I find it really empowering. I think that we can take more responsibility for our own lives, whether that might be leaving a job that we hate or ending a toxic relationship and so on. #2, no is only an answer if you accept it. This is actually really similar to one of my key takeaways from Marie Forleo's book, Everything is Figure-Outable. Rachel is a really big dreamer. She sets herself big goals and she has achieved so many of them. And I think this premise is the reason why. In the book, Rachel writes, when it comes to your dreams, no is not an answer. The word no is not a reason to stop. If you can't get through the front door, try the side window. If the window is locked, maybe you slide down the chimney. I love this analogy. In the book, Rachel recalls how nobody would publish her first book, but she would not accept no for an answer and she decided to self-publish instead. I can relate this to my own life too, because when I first applied for my current role, I didn't even get to the interview stage because they didn't think I had enough experience. But when I saw that the job was still available a little while later, I persevered and I eventually got an interview where I was able to show them my passion and my ability to do the job, and I ended up getting it. #3, don't break promises to yourself. In the book, Rachel writes, I can't count the number of diets I've tried. I can't tell you the number of times I've made plans to go to the gym and then blew them off. The number of half marathons I signed up for, paid the entry fee for, and then quietly pretended not to remember when it was time to actually train. 2. The number of times I've declared, from here on out I'm going to walk a mile every morning before work, and then never made it past the 3rd day. Infinity. Sound familiar? It definitely does to me. Rachel talks in the book about how she's turned this around now and she doesn't break promises that she makes to herself. She says it might not feel like it's important blowing off some of these things, but it is, because our words have power, but our actions shape our lives. And she does caveat this by saying that you shouldn't really commit to things that you don't feel that you can accomplish because they're incredibly important to you, because otherwise you'll set yourself up to continually fail. I like quotes, and this is my favourite one from the book. This is your life. You are meant to be the hero of your own story. And I like this because it makes me picture myself as a superhero. This book is a phenomenon. It has almost as many reviews on Amazon as Harry Potter. I think the main reason for this book's success is because it's so honest and vulnerable. And I think the magic of this book is that it's so painfully honest that she talks about things that women often feel but don't often talk about. So by sharing her stories, she helps other women to feel less alone. The things that she's honest about in the book range from silly things like peeing her pants on a trampoline after having a baby and having hairy toes and having to shave them, to things which are much more serious, like her finding her brother's body after he committed suicide, and also talking about the beginnings of her relationship with her now husband Dave, which doesn't paint either of them in a good light. I've seen Rachel described as a boot camp instructor. Her father was a preacher, and there's an element of that in her style as well. She can definitely be very tough love, but she's also caring and compassionate, and I do genuinely believe that she wants to help other women to make their lives better. I really like her style of writing. She can easily make me laugh and smile, but she also had me in tears, especially reading about her brother's suicide and her adoption struggles. The format of the book worked well, however it's not very actionable, but I think that Rachel recognised this because her next book, Girl Stop Apologising, is much more practical. I feel like I should say that Rachel is a Christian and she does mention her beliefs in the book, so if you are also a Christian then you might appreciate this. However, I really don't think it matters if you're not, because it's not the central topic of the book and she really doesn't force her beliefs on anyone. I can't finish this review without mentioning some of the criticism that Rachel receives, because you can't Google Girl Wash Your Face review without finding so much of it. I think some of it is because when someone is so successful, then people like to tear them down. However, I'm not saying that everyone should like Rachel Hollis. I don't think she is for everyone, and that's okay. I'm going to address a couple of the main criticisms now briefly. People have said that she doesn't address the possibility that for some people, obstacles to happiness are outside of their control. I do think she could have acknowledged in the book that she was born with more privilege than other people, and that it is inherently more difficult for some people to achieve their dreams than for others. However, I don't believe that it is impossible, and I still think that it is an empowering message. The other criticism that gets levelled against her is that not all of her content is original. I saw a quote from Rachel herself, which helps to explain this. I'm not an expert. I'm not a guru. Anything I've ever done, the work I've done, has been like your girlfriend telling you what worked for her. Rachel has read so many personal development books and listened to so many podcasts. And what she does is she summarizes everything that worked for her into her books and her teachings. And personally, I'm fine with this because I feel like she's already done the work, found out what works for her, and then she sums it up in a really motivating and engaging way. I enjoyed this book, and I'm grateful to it for introducing me to Rachel Hollis because I've got so much out of her content ever since, whether that's from her next book, her podcasts, following her on Instagram, and much, much more. I find her really motivating and inspiring. She really pumps me up. As this book is not very actionable, I think it's best read in conjunction with her next book, Girl Stop Apologising. I'm going to give this book 4 stars. I would recommend it for people who want more for their lives and want someone to really fire them up. This book is definitely aimed at women. I'm not saying that men couldn't get anything out of it, but it's definitely worth bearing in mind before reading it. What do you think? Does this book sound like something you might be interested in reading for yourself? Check out the link below for more information on the book and for Rachel. If you prefer listening to audiobooks rather than reading, Rachel narrated the book herself for Audible, and she also released a few chapters free on her podcast Rise. If you're interested in the book but just don't have the time to read right now, you can read the key insights from the book in less than 15 minutes on Blinkist. I've included a link below to a free trial. Next week, I will be moving into the health arena and reviewing Just Eat It by Laura Thomas. This book is about intuitive eating and how to encourage a more gentle approach to food and your body. Watch next week to see if it works. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review, then please click subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're the first to know about my future videos. I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll catch you next time.